So this is the first album that came out by the band Solarus. Now, in the review I've just done, which is their second album, Darkest Days, I did touch on a few certain things of this album. Now, the band has actually contacted me themselves and has brought a few things to light for me, so I'm going to touch on that now. So, in the previous review, I said this album shared a lot of similarities with the Borealis album Purgatory, because Purgatory's concept was about a woman giving birth to a girl and dying in childbirth. And then the husband, father, hated the girl for what she did to the mum, and treated her quite badly. So the little girl decided to commit suicide to go be with her mother in the afterlife. And this album, Reunion, is also a concept which is about a couple where the woman passes away and the husband wants to basically join her in the afterlife and reunite with her. So not exactly the same story, but a similar kind of concept, you could argue. Now, I don't know if I did mention this in my first review, but if not, then this is not a blatant copy. I want to stress that and put that out there. This concept is very personal to the lead guitarist, who is the founder of the band, who goes by the name Lucas. This is personal because this is about his grandparents, I believe it was, who went through this. So his grandma passed away, and then the granddad wanted to reunite with her eventually when it came his turn to pass away. So this is not basically taking the same idea from Purgatory. This was a personal story for Lucas that he wanted to tell, and he has been wanting to do this for a fair while but never really had the means to do it. So you could probably argue that he actually had this concept in mind before the album Purgatory actually released. So Lucas was actually the original one with this kind of idea and concept. Not that Borealis stole that concept, I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying basically Lucas didn't take anything from Borealis, it was his own thing. But I still want to stress there are similarities because of how each album tells a story about someone dying and then someone wanting to go join a person in the afterlife. But neither band has stolen the idea, they're both separate, there's just a coincidence they are quite similar. So I just wanted to put that out there. Also, I also mentioned that in this album I didn't really find that the lead singer was really matching up with the band. I didn't know why this was. It was mostly just the fact that she had a very high voice, which I wasn't really used to, and also the odd track, just one or two or three maybe, but not the majority, it's just the odd few. The band wasn't really connecting with what she was capable of, and what she was capable of didn't really connect with what they did, and it sounded a little odd. Now, it's been brought to my attention that because this album was kind of thought out and then done a while back, Sarah D, who is the vocalist, came after everything was done. So everything has already been recorded and done without really the intention of Sarah. So unfortunately it wasn't written to suit her voice or the amount of range she also has, which is why there isn't as much range from Sarah on this album that there is on Darkest Days. There is still range to her, it's just not as vast as what Darkest Days gave and what she can do, because the songs don't really call for it. So yeah, that is basically it. That's all I want to say. She had to basically work with what was already given, and she does have an incredible voice, she does have range, but the album wasn't really built for such a voice with so many kind of ranges and talent. It didn't really kind of fit to really convey the amount she is capable of. Also, with the kind of highness of her voice, the problem I kind of have with that is all I really listen to is metal. I don't really listen to anything else. And for other people who listen to metal, unfortunately the majority of singers are male vocalists. And the females that are in bands, there is a lot that just do this kind of evanescent sound. You have so many bands out there that sound very operatic in singing, and they all sound exactly the same. The singers who usually go against this type of grain as female singers usually go out there with a lot of aggression and ferocity, trying to sound manly, sexist a little, but that is kind of what they try and do to keep on top and with the flow of the kind of heaviness and gain of the guitars and everything. Because if they kind of go in sounding like a mellow female singer and just try and do it with really ferocious metal going on, their voice would kind of be crushed in the mix, and it wouldn't work. So with Sarah being such a high kind of vocalist, it's just different. So I wasn't really used to it, so it is maybe for some a bit off-putting because of that, because it is different and not exactly really heard of. At least for me it wasn't. But I do kind of urge you to stick with it and just kind of get used to the voice, because once you do, it does fit, it does work, and her voice is incredible. So now that I've kind of repaired all of these kind of faults I had in the previous album and now kind of updated with all the kind of things I've been told about, let's just kind of get into this album now, seeing that I've near enough wasted 10 minutes and I haven't started even on the album. So let's get into the first track, One Final Moment. So unfortunately, One Final Moment actually does start very similar to that of Purgatory by Borealis. In Purgatory, the album starts with the sound of a heartbeat monitor, and then eventually a baby crying. And then as that ends, for the band to come in, it ends on the kind of heart giving out, so it's the flatline sound. So this album starts out with sounds of an ambulance. I think that's kind of all it is basically kind of ambient noise with the sound of an ambulance, because it starts off with someone obviously passing away and the ambulance is being called out. So similarities there, just putting that out there, because that's just the way it is. And when the band comes in, it's pretty kind of aggressive and dry. The guitars are doing a fairly quick kind of speed. There's no real lead being portrayed here. It's basically just the rhythm of the intro just has a fair bit of ferocity to it, a fair bit of kind of speed. There are subtle keys put in there, but for the most part it is quite dry and just kind of like a typical metal thing of just fast guitar playing intro with some subtle kind of keys here and there, but not really that heavy at all. And that is mostly it. So when Sarah comes in, she obviously has a very high voice, and the guitarist is still doing a fairly fast-paced rhythm for the verse, and the keys are still there, but again they're not really kind of heavy at all. So this track, One Final Moment, for me is the worst on the album. It is still good, but unfortunately it's just, this is the track that for me is the worst for the lead singer and the band. This track to me is just the one which doesn't click the easiest. The guitarist is going at such a fast kind of pace, and it's such a kind of dry kind of tone. There's not a lot of warmth to it. It's just one of these typical metal tones going at its fast pace. And then Sarah is being this really high angelic voice, and then you got really subtle keys and everything, not really rounding anything else or lifting anything up. So you've got really dry, fast guitar stuff, and then really angelic, high singing, and to me that does not really work. I don't know how they really fix it. Maybe if the keys were a bit more bigger to kind of fill that sound out a bit and take away that kind of dryness, heavy edge of the guitars. to kind of give the vocalist a bit more of a platform for a voice to be on top of, I think would maybe help. I'm not too sure if that would have fixed it, because I'm not a musician. It's just maybe an opinion, just a thought. Could be wrong though, for all I know. But her voice is high. It's a nice angelic voice. Not a lot of range going on, because as I say, the guitarist is basically just doing a very kind of dry sounding, fast paced thing. The pre-chorus, the guitarist does kind of open sound up a bit, and the singer does also open up a little bit there. So it sounds a bit better because they both kind of start melding a bit together there. And then the chorus, again, is a lot better than what the verse actually is, because the guitarist is just basically doing simple kind of power chords, I believe, and that is kind of it. So because of that, the lead singer isn't kind of being bombarded with something quite aggressive. So her voice, she can actually hold on each word and kind of have each one sing. So there she's now kind of given a bit of diversity and something to at least work with to kind of help, instead of just kind of being stuck with just kind of one kind of thing that she can just do for the verse. She's now had a kind of pre-chorus and a chorus to kind of help diverse it up a bit and do some different things. It's not exactly a lot and something massively kind of grand. It's basically just she's singing in her angelic way, in a typical kind of singing voice, in the verse, and then with the chorus she just kind of opens it up and then kind of lingers on the kind of words and everything, and that is mostly all she's able to do. The solo with this track is, again, unfortunate. It's at the end of the album, it's kind of the closer. It starts fast, and it's great, it's fast, it's a great played solo, talent and everything, but it doesn't last long. It starts fast and everything, it's like, the guy is fast, he has talent, let's hear something else, and then he kind of just drops it off. So there's not range to the solo, and there's not a lot there. It's a short solo of just like one simple thing. So it doesn't kind of show the range of the guitarist and what he's kind of really capable of. It just shows he's quick, and that is kind of it. So that is kind of One Final Moment. It starts off a lot like Purgatory. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just that's the way it is. It does kind of give an essence to the album, and you know, kind of paints a picture in your mind with the kind of sound that they're portraying. Sarah, again, she does have an incredible voice, but it's not really able to kind of project and unleash just what she is capable of. She is quite restrained with this track. The guitarist in the verse, although what he's doing is really good, it does not exactly work with what Sarah's doing, and what Sarah's doing doesn't work with that. So although everything is good, it's not exactly clicking. And then the chorus is quite nice, but again, it's not something too big or grand. And the solo, even though it's fast and has talent, there's not really a lot to show that the guy is really kind of diverse and has a lot of kind of techniques and skill in other kind of areas. It just shows he is fast, and that is it. So it's a decent track, and it is okay, but it's nothing great and nothing amazing. It's just, this is a good track, but there are problems, unfortunately. So that is it. Let's get into the next one, Shattered Skies. So with Shattered Skies, we are actually getting better now, all around actually, so this is a big improvement over the first track. So the song is starting off, the keys are a bit more up front, they're kind of always there. They're not doing anything huge and epically grand at all, they're just kind of always there in throughout this entire track actually. For the most part at least, I think it's always there from what I heard. And the guitarist isn't doing anything in a kind of quick pace, he's just doing everything kind of paced out and everything, so it definitely helps for when Sarah does come in. But the unfortunate thing, which is also positive at the same time, is when it actually gets into the verse, it's not Sarah that sings, it's actually Matt from Borealis. Now, this is a good thing, because obviously it's a voice that Sarah can't exactly do, because she's not a man, she's a woman. So it gives a lot of diversity to the vocal performance of the album, because we get a completely new thing, which is great. And also musically, this is great because it's actually soft. So I don't believe it's acoustic. I believe it is just the clean channel for the guitars with Matt's melodic voice. So second track in, we now have the first track, which was quite heavy and aggressive. This now is starting melodically with vocals and guitar, giving a whole new kind of perspective to the sound of what we've been given so far, and a new kind of singer that's not female but a male, so a whole new prospect there. And the unfortunate thing, if you want me to kind of touch on that, is the fact that this album does take a lot from Borealis, and now we actually have the singer of Borealis. It's not a fault of the band, it's just an unfortunate thing that can be, you can connect. This album is a lot up from Borealis and especially Purgatory, and now we have Matt. It's not a bad thing that they have Matt. I like Matt as a vocalist. It does add something completely new, so you're actually getting a male instead of female, as I've said. But yeah, it's just unfortunate, and also the fact that Matt gets the melodic part, not Sarah, because it actually takes a fair while into this album until Sarah actually gets a musical part that allows her to sing in a melodic way. So we actually get a lot of the kind of heavy stuff from Sarah, and then eventually near the end we are able to hear a new side of Sarah's vocal delivery. So that is also unfortunate, but again, with Sarah, when she's in Borealis, she is always playing a character. So in Purgatory, she was playing the dead mother wife, singing to her husband, I believe it was, and in The Offering, she was... That album I didn't really grasp at the end of it, which is where she was. I believe she's some kind of spirit that guides the children, I think. Not too sure, but she plays a character which kind of fills out the story and gives each person a character. So with Matt here, I'm guessing he is the husband talking, I guess? That's at least what I think, unless I actually look up the actual lyrics, which I haven't. I probably should have done that. But I'm guessing he is singing the side of the husband, and Sarah maybe doing the female. That may not be the way it is, but if it is, that is obviously a good thing. But when Sarah does come back in, then as I've kind of already mentioned, the guitars come back into the kind of gain channel and everything. So you don't really get a melody from Sarah, but you do get something new than the first track, because the keys are all there, and the guitar is kind of like slowed down to a pace that kind of actually works with Sarah. So Sarah is got a bit more of a kind of emotion in her vocal delivery. It's a bit warmer as well, so it's not as kind of sharp. And it's just a lot more kind of angelic than the first track. There is a bit of warmth to her, and she definitely has power in her delivery, so it's not just all the same thing. There's warmth and power, and then certain parts in the verse she puts even more power into it, projecting her voice even harder. And then that kind of goes into the chorus as well. Before each chorus, the first and second, there is a guitar lead, which isn't anything fast, it's just a nice musical lead, which I think adds a fullness to the song, and just gives it even more life and everything. So I really like that. But yeah, the chorus with Sarah is pretty similar to the verse. She has power, and then in other parts she kind of projects and gives even more power. Just giving range to her voice, but again, it's nothing like Darkest Day kind of range, but it is range nonetheless, and something different than the first track. The solo in this album is basically what it should be. Really, really fantastic. It starts musically, it has a lot of emotion. There is speed in it, so it's not just all musical. It has layers. You have your musical, emotional part, then you have your fast part, which isn't just fast for the sake of it, it's fast, but it also contains the emotion of the solo as well, even though it's going fast. And then it comes back and ends on the more musical, emotional side again. So there is differentials in the solo, different parts, different layers, and that just shows that the guy obviously feels what he's playing, and it's not just doing something for the sake of I need to do a solo. He actually feels it. He has layered it, and he knows how to pace the solo and when to change and everything. So it's a fantastic solo, but that is mostly it for Shattered Skies. Let's get into the next track now, My Eternity. So again here with this track, My Eternity, the band is starting to kind of open up. Same with Sarah, everyone, starting to add just more and more to the songs. So with that said, My Eternity starts off with actually fairly heavy keys actually, as well as a choir, I believe it is, of females, that's what I'm hearing, for the intro. So it's a very, very kind of grand, epic kind of sized intro of the song. You've got the guitars, you've got the keys, you've got the female choir and everything, so it sounds really kind of huge and epic, like gothic and dark at the same time. It eventually cuts out even before Sarah gets in, or Matt again, and when it cuts out, it's basically just guitars. You lose the keys and everything as well, and you just get really kind of heavy, kind of chugging away with the guitars. When the verse comes in, we again get Matt from Borealis singing. It's not melodic this time, it is now completely different. Well, actually, it is the exact opposite from what he was doing in the previous track, because with the previous track he was melodic. In this track he's actually being quite aggressive in his vocal delivery. So again, it's given a whole new performance to a male singer in the band, and yeah, just something completely new. I'm not sure about having him so close in the last track, because we've had him in the last track, and we also again have him in the following track, and he's in this track a bit more than the previous one. I don't know about him being that kind of close, but overall it's not that big a deal really. When Sarah comes in, it's mostly in the same aspect as the previous song, this vocal delivery. Still the band is supporting her a little bit better in this track. Her voice, still some things she puts a bit more emphasis on, some words, a bit more power in certain things, a bit of a kind of warm, more organic kind of delivery than that of the first track, which she seems to really kind of be pushing to kind of keep on top of everything. Could be wrong, it may have actually been easy for her, but from all I know, and if I were to guess, that was probably the hardest one for her to do. It's just what I hear. But again, I could be completely wrong because I don't know anything. So when the chorus comes in, it gives a bit more, because when she says this is where it ends, she comes back in the background fader, so when this is where we end, right in the background, this is where we end. So it happens a fair bit actually, not even just that one time. So there's another part where it's like we let it out, I think she's saying. I don't exactly grasp what she says there, because she uses a fair bit of kind of power and everything, so it's just like it was difficult to really hear exactly what she's saying. But with that, again, it just adds, even though it is just an effect to put her in the background and everything, I still think she is doing a different kind of vocal technique while she's in the background, and even though it is an effect to put her back there, it again just adds more variety to the song. It gives it a bit more and everything to it. So I really like that with Sarah, just kind of hearing her voice in a different kind of aspect and everything. and layering herself and everything. And then again, like the previous track, there's certain aspects in the chorus where she just completely projects certain words and everything, and while she projects, it's actually kind of projected in the background at times as well also. So a lot more going on vocally for her this time, which is a great thing to just get more from her. The solo in this one kind of follows similarly to the previous track. It's musically kind of more melodic, laid-back solo. It again shows kind of the warmth and kind of feel and emotion that the guitarist is putting into his performance here. It's more emotional and musical driven than the previous one, and it goes on a little bit longer than the previous solo. There is speed eventually that comes into this one, so again, layering it and changing it up so it's not all just the same thing. Although it wouldn't be too bad if it was all musical, because it does come across a lot more better and there's a lot more you can do with a musical solo than a fast solo. So again, great emotion and really, really great solo, great tone and everything. Forgot to mention Matt, he is in the second verse as well, doing the exact kind of same thing, so he's in both verses as for the previous track, he was only in the one. So that is it for this track, a lot better. But now we get into maybe the best track on this album, which is really, really good. Prayer for the Fallen. So saying this straight off the bat, this track is absolutely amazing. There is so much to it. The vocals Sarah does are absolutely incredible on this. This is basically the part in the album where I just believe Sarah is just completely unleashed upon the album, and she just spreads her wings and she just is all over everything. She is just unrestrained and she's just completely putting everything out there now. So with that said, Prayer for the Fallen actually starts with the guitarist Lucas actually now opening up and spreading his wings, as right as the track starts we are hit with a lead from him. It's not exactly a lead solo necessarily, but it is a lead on his kind of lead channel because the tone shifts, so you can tell it's an actual lead. Now it's musical, it's not slow or anything, it's not shreddy. I think there's a slight shreddish part nearer to the end, but it's just a really nice toned musical solo. It just adds emphasis to the song and just more kind of fun to it. It just breathes more life into it and just more emotion with what he's doing. So I really, really love the intro with his lead. The keys are again slightly in throughout this track as well. The verse is pretty similar to the verses we've kind of had, similarly kind of sung with Sarah and the kind of band backing her in them previous tracks as well. The great part is the chorus, where the chorus for this track is a really fun sounding chorus. There is just so much going on, so much energy, kind of power, different kind of layers of things going on. So Sarah, when she comes in with the chorus, she's like holding on to each word she's saying, just giving it emphasis, projecting, and there's effects given on her voice in certain aspects. So there's parts where her voice seems kind of layered, so duplicated, and then an effect put on which kind of sounds church choir-ish, if I were to try and explain it, kind of like that, when it's doing Give Me Salvation. And then after that, when it's like Silent My Devotion, I think the line is. So straight after that, church choir laid with her kind of voice and everything effect, and then she comes in with that next part. She is seriously projecting it, more powerful than I've really ever heard. She's just putting so much energy into it. And then on the word devotion, I think she's putting a bit of vibrato into the word, because it's not just silence my devotion, so it's not devotion, it's devotion, and then she, just little sort of vibrato. I think that's what she's doing. Might be wrong, but it does sound like there's vibrato on that one word. So as it goes back into the verse, again there is a bit of a lead, so everything is just like turned so far up. So you've got the power and funness of Sarah as she comes in, and her voice has a bit of a groove to it actually through the chorus, so it like bounces around and everything. And then the church choirness of her vocals, and then the part Silence My Devotion where she seriously pushes it with energy, and then the bit of vibrato on the word devotion. And then as the chorus ends, you get the fun part of that lead from the guitarist Lucas, so everything is just so much fun and there's so much going on. The second verse actually goes melodic. It's still not a kind of clean channel at all or anything, it's still the gain channel, but Lucas is just doing something a little kind of more musical, a bit more kind of restrained and everything, which opens the sound up and brings everything down again. And Sarah is able to sing, and you hear her voice and just, you know, a different kind of aspect to full blatant guitar going to something a bit more musical. It does sound a lot like Borealis. I have to say that it is a very Borealis sounding thing, but it is nice to hear, and again it's something different, so the song is going through different things. You have your first verse, your second verse is nothing like the first verse, the chorus has multiple things going on and everything. You got lead intro, leading into the second verse, then the lead solo, so a lot going on, and therefore adding a lot of fun, a lot of diversity, a lot of things to hear. The vocalist is, with all this going on, just sounds like she's having a whale of a time, and she's just all over this track, doing effects, projecting, putting so much power and emotion into it, doing that kind of technique of vibrato. Again, I think that's what it is, I could be wrong though. The lead solo in this one, again, it's musical, but it's not, you know, like the emotional melodic kind of thing. It's more of just like, this is going to be a really kind of fun, upbeat musical solo and everything. There's a bit of dry shred in there, but then as it starts again, it's not like that musical, really nice tone lead, got a bit of a groove to it and everything, and a bit of funness to it. And the end of the track, he actually does another solo. So this track is just filled to the brim with things going on, and just so much fun and power, and all the bands, keys, and then everything. Sarah is doing so much and everything, and her voice is just completely unrestrained for this track, and it is amazing to hear what she is capable of. It really shows how fantastic she is as a vocalist. This track is, for the other tracks, really was kind of like holding her back. This track seriously opens her up for everyone, and even Lucas, he seriously opens up and he is all over this track. So fantastic track, this one. I really like this track. So let's get on to the next one, Ethereal Tears. I think I said that right. So this track's not as grand or as big as the previous track, unfortunately, but it's still a really good track, this one. So starting off, we don't exactly get a lead from Lucas. Again, it is again just one of these heavy kind of key forward intros that you know, sound like an orchestra, but it's mostly keys, I think. So violin kind of sounds, among other type of things, and the guitarist just doing some simple kind of power chord stuff and everything. So grand enough sounding intro and everything. As the verse comes in, again, Sarah has range, not massive amount of range as Darkest Days would have, but a range nonetheless. Is still kind of like her typical natural voice and everything, but there's certain parts where she will put more of a projection on some words and everything, and push them. There is a new thing which I might hear from her in this track, which is some words she'll sing it, and then the word will start fading and trailing off. This is not an effect, this is Sarah doing it all herself. So she'll say a word and then just lower her kind of volume, and it'll kind of fade out into a trickle kind of thing, which is something newly done and from her and everything. The chorus has keys and everything. Sarah is using again just her natural kind of voice and still kind of projecting other parts. The second verse, though, Sarah sings it kind of differently to the first verse. I don't exactly know how she's doing it because it's the same kind of voice. It's not like doing different kind of things in range. I think it's just the way she's singing it and everything. She's put a spin on it, like a different kind of motion or something. So I actually kind of really like the second verse to the first verse because of it, because she's put in such a kind of weird kind of, it's not effect or, you know, a different way. It's just how she approaches singing it is done in a way that actually sounds really, really nice, cool kind of. And I would like to explain it, but I don't exactly know what she did, so I can't. It's just there is something about the second verse, the way she kind of sings it. She has some words like kind of fade, and then there's other parts where something will trickle and fade off on her words, and then she'll sing it with like power, and then it'll just really quickly fade out. And I don't think, again, I'm not 100% on what she's doing, but there is something she does which makes it sound different to the first verse, which is great. And it is really nice, because I do actually really like hearing this verse whenever it comes up, because of just how her voice and singing style kind of plays, because it just sounds kind of interesting. Chorus is kind of the same. There is no lead. There's something new, which I don't know if it's Sarah that does it, or if they kind of got some kind of other female in to do it. Maybe Sarah, for all I know, I don't know. But there's a kind of spoken part, which is in Purgatory. I forgot the name of the track, but there's a track in Purgatory where they bring a little girl in to read a note that she left her dad, basically a suicide note. And this is like in this track. So after the kind of second chorus, there is a woman that is reading or saying something. I don't know if she's reading a note and the husband's reading it. Again, I haven't looked up the lyrics, which I really should have done. I will do it when I get the album, definitely, 100%. But unfortunately I haven't. But it could be reading something, but basically it is, again, a lot like Purgatory with that little girl, and now this is a woman speaking something again, with the keys kind of racing and everything. I do like it because it adds weight. Like when the little girl reads the note in Purgatory, it is a little girl reading a suicide note, which makes it big. If it was Matt doing it, it would not have the same effect. So whatever the woman's saying, because I don't check the lyrics, it will add weight and emotion and an effect to it. So I do appreciate it, and I like it, and I welcome it. But it is like Purgatory. The solo, again, just fantastic. Lot of emotion. I'm not sure if this is actually the most emotional kind of solo he gives. I think it might be. There's still a bit of speed here and there and everything, just to kind of keep things changing and evolving and adapting the solo to not just be consistently the same thing, but it is a lot more of a kind of melodic solo and musical. So it's a dark, very emotionally driven solo, this one, definitely. And again, Sarah is not doing as much as she did in Prayer for the Fallen in this track, but there is still kind of range, and that second verse, I don't know what she's doing, but sounds really, really good. So let's go on to the next track, Shadows Lifted. The Shadows Lifted starts quite quickly with the guitarist. It's not a lead, but it is a quick intro. It sounds like he's picking very quickly, and then he's, I think it's hammer-on pull-offs he may be doing. I could be wrong about that, but he's definitely picking very quickly, and then it's like picking very quickly and it's open, and then he kind of hammers on and then pulls off, and then there's just a lot of fast picking. That's kind of what he's doing, I think, so that might be it. Could be completely wrong, and if so, then don't really listen to me. But it's fast nonetheless, and then eventually the kind of choir key things come back in again, not choir, orchestra keys come back again, and then that leads into our verse. Now this verse is now a completely new and different thing so far for this album, and because of that it is great. It's all kind of clean with the guitars and everything. Sarah is now able to actually sing because previously on the second track Matt had the ability to do this, but Sarah didn't. So Sarah now is capable of doing this melodic vocal singing, and we can get that from her voice and everything. It is obviously very, very beautiful. It's really, really nice, well sung and everything, and then it's a beautiful rhythm and everything. But unfortunately, this is Borealis, where we started from the album Fall from Grace. This is so much like that. It's unbelievable. It is like literally the same thing. Now, I don't think Solarus deliberately just went, this is great, let's completely take that. I don't think that was the case at all, because I know a lot of people who listen to bands say they took from this, they took from that. When Avenged Sevenfold released the album Hail to the King, they said they've ripped from this band, this band, this band, this band. When Hail to the King, all they were really doing was just trying to pay tribute to bands they really, really, really loved, and the great metal bands of the old days. So yes, it was going to sound the same, but it wasn't blatant rip-offs. Now Solarus is definitely influenced by Borealis. They are fans of that band, so it's going to be like imprinted in their kind of subconscious mind and will influence them. So it probably is just this unfortunate thing where they are heavily influenced by Borealis. So when they went into it, unfortunately, it was heavily, completely like where we started from Borealis. But I don't think they went in just completely ripping that off and just said, we really like this would suit it here, so let's just take it and just put it in. I think it was their own idea, but as I say, they are very heavily influenced by Borealis, so unfortunately they just really got the same idea. And they had heard that track, and I just think they were thinking about it, but in the back of their minds they weren't aware of it, Like if I was capable of doing music, and if I went out there and I had the talent and the brain capacity to do it, I would sound a hell of a lot like the band Avenged Sevenfold, because they are my favourite band, and I think they do everything extraordinarily well, so I would therefore sound like them. And we can say that of every band as well. Everyone is influenced from something, therefore they will have a certain sound and style similar to the band they're influenced from. And that's kind of the same here. It's just unfortunate that this seriously borrowed from that song. But anyway, let's move on from that. It kind of picks up and everything. It still follows similar to where we started, but it starts changing it a little. So it's getting out there. It takes time, like when the chorus comes in, it starts becoming its own track again. But this is a new kind of thing from Sarah, because when she comes into the kind of more heavy kind of verse thing, it's not heavy. It's it's got the kind of gain back, but it's a very bright, uplifting sound they got going on. So it's quite bright, and then the way Sarah is singing and emotion and the emotion put into this track, it's quite bright and quite kind of cheerful. It has a nice kind of bounce to it, and yeah, it's just quite light and everything, and cheerful. Now, I don't know if that's the case because it's like Shadows Lifted. So, Lifted, is it supposed to be an uplifting track? Might be. That may have been what they were doing. So, Sarah may have gone in and betrayed something in a bit more of kind of bright nature, as well as the band. The solo is actually even more kind of bright and got a funness to it as well. So, that might have been the case because Shadows Lifted lyrically may be a kind of more uplifting track. I could be completely wrong, and if I am, don't really listen to me, because I'm completely wrong about this whole thing. But nevertheless, it is a more kind of uplifting sound. Sarah is singing in a very kind of uplifting, very bright vocal style, which has not been done in the previous tracks. Nor did I really hear it in Darkest Days, actually, I think. So this is completely unique for her. So it's nice to just hear this really kind of bright niceness. The track Limbo is a very kind of bright track and everything, but not in like the kind of pace of this one. The solo, again, it's got a pace to it. It's not fast, it's just a really kind of upbeat, musical, nice kind of tempo groove to it. It's a lot of fun. There is speed to it, and there is some quite intense speed at times. But it's just more of that kind of fun nature kind of solo that's just really musical, really kind of catchy, just a fun solo, which has some great speed to it, but not overly done, and it's not overly just like a musical solo because he puts the speed in. So again, as always, really well thought out and layered, which is what any great guitarist would do instead of just sticking to, I'm just going to do this one bloody thing and that'll be it, because that would suck completely. But next track, Surrender the Universe. Melodic of the album, so this is obviously going to be very different to any of the other tracks. So the guitarist, Lucas, the rhythm he's got for the verse and everything is a really sweet rhythm. It's just the clean channel he has, it has such a warm tone to it and it sounds really nice. And yeah, it's just a really sweet sounding lead. It's not depressing like one of these melodics, really depressing. It's just like, this really sounds nice. It's a really nice tone, really nice kind of play he has and rhythm he's got going and everything. So incredible from Lucas. Sound absolutely amazing, and such a nice emotion as well. It's not depressing, it's just a really beautiful melody. And again with the track Surrender the Universe, I don't think that's depressing. It's someone who wants to surrender the universe to someone. That's kind of what I'm grabbing just from the title. I haven't looked at the lyrics again. So I think it's just something really beautiful and a grand gesture to someone. So therefore Lucas is playing something really beautiful. And it's such a great tone and it sounds absolutely amazing, the kind of play he has going on for this track. We have Sarah in a completely melodic song as well, so great to see her come to this. I'm not massively into melodics, but I do like to at least have a melodic so I can hear something new and different in the change up. So I really like this, and Sarah in the previous track, it was melodic, but not as melodic as this one. So again, it's just something new. She is very kind of light and really angelic in this track. She's not using power, because with something this melodic, if she was using power and belting, it would be ridiculous. But she's really kind of soft and everything with her delivery, and it sounds beautiful. It's a beautiful voice, really kind of angelic and light and everything. She still has a high voice, it's just the way she is, so that's the way it is, so really nice. The song does change up, which is a great thing, so the song isn't consistently just of one style. Eventually, around halfway through, Lucas comes in with the heavy guitars, and then it goes into the more kind of heavy nature of the melody. So in this one track we've got completely melodic half, then heavy other half, which is amazing. I like it when a melodic track actually does that, adding just layers in the track that evolves into something new and different at the end. So vocally, obviously Sarah's able to now put more power into certain things. There's some kind of word she sings where it's like at the back, so where she says a word at the back and then she projects it to the kind of front area of her mouth. I don't know what this is. I have watched YouTube videos where vocal trainers have actually talked about her music, and they say this word that they just did, it's at the back of the mouth, and they sing it back there, and then and then halfway through the word they then bring it to the foreground of the mouth, and it adds more of a projection to it. So there's certain words, I don't know what she's saying just because it's so kind of mellow, kind of like everything melds together and everything, but it's like, curlay. Again, she's not saying curlay, she's saying something completely different, but that's all I'm hearing. But it's in the back and it's like cur, so it's soft at the back, and then just she brings it forward, and it's natural, it's not like cur, and then she's using a lot of power. It's a really kind of nice fluid kind of motion of just the note being soft and then just risen up in a really kind of natural organic way, and it really sounds amazing when she does that. Again, I don't know what it's called in the kind of singing kind of terms or whatever, if there is a word for it, it probably is. But again, it's really nice when she does it and everything, and just the diversity of her singing. The solo again is more on the line of musical, but it's not. It follows the kind of emotional way to the track, so it's melodic and it's beautiful, but it's not depressing at all, and really slow and moody. It's got a slowness to it and a great melody to it, but it's got a nice warmness to it and really nice emotion to it. Again, it does have a slight kind of speed to it, but it's definitely a nice musically uplifting kind of solo with a lot of feel. The track actually ends back on the kind of clean kind of rhythm that the track started on, so it kind of comes full circle. So really nice soft kind of close to a really nice sounding beautiful track. So next track, Unto the Angels. Again, this is an awesome track, absolutely amazing, a lot of stuff going on. So starting off, this track has a build-up, and it's a really nice sounding, kind of poppy kind of sounding build-up. It's very bright, and it builds into a lead from Lucas, and it's a musical lead. It's quite kind of uplifting, cheerful, and then it stops, and then we just get rhythm from Lucas, a bit of keys. I think there's some female choir in aspects of this intro. I'm not too sure, but I do think they're there. But before the verse actually comes in, there is yet again another solo from Lucas, and this time it's actually a really emotional lead. So the first lead was actually kind of bright and cheerful and a fun lead. This one, the second it starts, it just sounds like the guitar is just crying with emotion. Just it's so emotionally driven, this second lead, and again an incredible tone to the kind of guitar, and there's just so much emotion to the second lead, and it's so emotionally driven. It just sounds like an absolute outcry through the guitar and everything. When the verse comes in, it actually sounds a little bright actually, so with Sarah and everything. This is one of the more kind of more emotional songs I hear from her in this track that she's conveying, Sarah. It just sounds like she's put so much effort in. Not that she didn't put effort into the other songs, it's just this song in particular just sounds that she really kind of actually connects emotionally or something to this track. Because her voice is just so damn beautiful in this track. It's been beautiful in other tracks with so much range and power, but this track, I just seriously hear herself put into this. And again, I'm not exactly sure why, it's just what I pick up on. Because it's just, there's so much emotion that's put forward. It's not, you know, sad emotion, it's just like she's connected in some kind of form and things, and the way she sings it and everything, that the flow she uses in some things she's singing, there's such a nice flow, and the way she sings and puts forward certain aspects and things, it's just incredible. The second verse, when what's the line now? We have risen. I love that kind of section where it's just like, we have risen, and the way she sings it, it's just it's so lightly and emotionally done, and she just holds onto it, and just so light and just so organic. It's so incredible, that one section, and I love that section every time I come to this track. It's after this first chorus, and it's the first part of the second verse, and yeah, just when she says that line, "We have risen," it just sounds amazing. Every time I just really love that section because of her voice and what she's doing, because it's just so light, and the way she holds the words and everything, it's so amazing. It progresses through and everything. There's certain kind of words she will hold on to and everything, and really puts like an emotion into it. It's not sad, but it's not, you know, incredibly cheerful. It's just like a really kind of bliss. I'm not amazingly happy, I'm not overly sad, it's just like I am content, and that's kind of the emotion I get. Just I'm content, I'm fine, and her voice just really portrays that to me. It just sounds really, really good. And the solo of this one is actually a fairly long solo, which follows in line with these kind of emotions. It's a nice musical solo. It's not overly fast, it's not slow and sad, it's just and it's not cheerful and, you know, over the top poppy. It's just a really nice organic sounding solo with really nice emotion to it, and it's incredible. There's a lot of emotion in this track, Unto the Angels, and it's just such a blissful listen, and so kind of just nice and really, really warm. And there's leads sprinkled through. You have the two leads, and then there's the lead solo. I'm not sure if there's another lead. I don't think there is. There might be though. But yeah, it's just such a nice sounding song, and it's just so beautiful, that track. So we're on to the last one now, which is the title of the album, Reunion. So this last track, Reunion, actually starts a little moody with just like the choir, not choir, for God's sake, orchestra, just the orchestra kind of going on, until Lucas comes in with yet again an amazing lead, adding weight and fullness to this final track. And I believe there's pinched harmonics in there, which adds very kind of, I don't really know how to explain it, but it just makes the string shake violently, so it makes it very kind of bright and aggressive, which is kind of like a pinched harmonic. So that's what I think he is actually doing. And when the verse comes in, this is another track which I think Sarah seriously connects with, because she seriously seems to feel this song, and it seems to actually flow through her, which you can feel in her vocal performance for this track. So there's just a lot of fun to her. So although the song started moody and everything, the rest of this track is actually a really kind of fun, sort of quick paced track, and it's just really kind of upbeat and a fun track with a lot going on. So Sarah just seems so light and bright in her voice and everything, and seriously angelic as always. And the pre-chorus, which kind of starts with the words "in the light of our new dawn," I think that's what she says. The way the band shifts to play along with her voice when she sings that part, "in the light of our new dawn," I seriously love that section because it just makes her voice sound so incredible. The way the band kind of complements her in that section. And even herself, her vocal performance for that certain part, it just sounds so light and beautiful. It's a really amazing kind of part. And Matt is also back in this track as well. He's in a fair few bits of this. His first part is slightly his standard style. The second part is my favourite part, personally, from him, because it's his kind of melodic part where he kind of falls over his words. So by that I kind of mean his words kind of keep trailing off in certain aspects and everything. And I just kind of like that part, so it gets a soft part from him. And then you get obviously the really bright stuff. The chorus with Sarah, the kind of flow and groove of it is a little odd, because it's sung in a different way that she's done in all the previous tracks again, so it's something brand new from her. And the flow of it and kind of tempo, it's just odd the way she kind of throws her kind of voice around in the chorus. It's really weird, it has a really odd kind of groove to it, but I kind of dig it. It is, like, whenever I hear it, it's just like, wow, that sounds weird, but it is kind of cool. And nearer the end part, because I think when Matt comes in first and second, he's not with Sarah, it's just him. But then the third and the fourth time, I think he is with Sarah, so he's singing and then Sarah's singing. They sing their own separate parts, but they keep kind of overlapping each other, so they're kind of together, which is great to hear, because they've kind of been together in Borealis a fair few times, so it's good to hear them, you know, in a way uniting together in this part. I don't think there's actually a lead solo in this. There might be, I think I might have skipped it, but there is a lot of leads. There's the lead in the intro, there's leads in the middle, there's a lead at the end, which is unfortunate, because the lead at the end, which I actually think is the lead solo, they cut him off and end the song, so they turn him down and cut his solo off. And how bloody dare you do that? How dare you cut off Lucas? He's an incredible guitarist and I want to hear his fucking solo, and how dare you stop me from hearing that? Obviously Lucas played a part in this and actually wanted it to be cut off, but for crying out loud, you're incredible. I want to hear the solo and I can't because it completely was shut off. So irritated about that. I don't like that, but nonetheless it's a really fun song, and Sarah's voice goes through so many things with her power, the kind of flow and things she does in the chorus has a really weird groove to it. And the parts where she says "in the light of our new dawn," the way she sings that, and then the band portrays her voice there, sounds amazing. So it's a fun song, which I think is the point, because it's reunion, so it's obviously the two people coming together, so it's a happy thing, it's a good thing. And musically, they definitely portray that, because that's what I feel. So vocals from Sarah, the music from Lucas and the others, who I have no idea what their names are portraying that, for sure. So that is the album. So that is Solarus Reunion, their first album, which is about Lucas's grandparents, and has been a project that's been in the making for a fair while, apparently. He has wanted to do this for a really long time, but didn't really have the funds and means to go about it. And it was all done before Sarah came aboard, so she had to work with it. So overall with this album, it is a fantastic album. It is just a little unfortunate that the first kind of 3 tracks, Sarah didn't really have the kind of platform to really portray her full performance and what she is capable of, until it gets to the track Prayer for the Fallen, where she is just completely unleashed upon the album, which is fantastic because she's not held back, which I think the first 3 tracks really do kind of hold how amazing she is back, which really is unfortunate. Not that the first 3 tracks are bad by any means, it's just they just like that, you know, energy, power and just grandness that Sarah can bring with a wide variety of vocal styles and deliveries. As well as Lucas. Even Lucas, I think, is held back in the first 3 for some reason. But it's an incredible album. So rating this, the second album, Darkest Days, I gave an 8.5. This one I give an 8.2. It's not as good as Darkest Days because there is a lot more to that, but this album is still absolutely fantastic. but doesn't do as much. So it's still a great album, so 8.2. I also want to say that this band, Solarus, they have day jobs. They don't exactly tour that many places. I think they only really do kind of Canada. They don't have a record label. They don't really make that many physical CDs because it costs them, and if they don't sell, they've wasted money. So they like doing to order, I think. So and even on YouTube, the amount of views and comments they get are very kind of low. So if you like this band and want them to stick around, I urge you, please support them. Buy the album. If you want a physical copy of the album, you need to find Lucas on Facebook. So if you just go onto the Solarus Facebook page and go on about, you will find Lucas as a part and a member of Solarus. Or just even comment on the Solarus Facebook site. I'm sure Lucas will find you. Comment on their music video Limbo. Lucas and Sarah are kind of avid in talking to people. Both of them have been talking to me. So they're really nice people. They've talked to me a lot. They've offered me things for free. I won't say why because I don't want you to take advantage of the people, but they've been really nice and kind to me. They're amazing people, and it's unreal just how nice they are. It takes me by surprise a lot when they talk to me. And I would urge people to go out, buy the album MP3. If you want it physical, just comment on their YouTube page, comment on their Facebook, find Lucas, try and find Sarah, and they will get you the physical copy, because they definitely need it, so I urge you to help them out. So that is it from me. So 8.2, it's an incredible album, and I urge you to, if you like this band, to actually pay. Don't just take the music from their free downloads. Don't do that. Support the band because they seriously need it, and they definitely deserve it. They should be one of the biggest bands because they're so talented. But that's it from me. So this is the end of the review. So this next part is mostly me giving some kind of clarity on a certain topic. So Darkest Days, there was a track called Holding On. Now Holding On was about was written by the singer Sarah D, and it was very personal to her because Holding On is about a childhood friend of hers who committed suicide very recently. So that is obviously incredibly unfortunate for the person, and obviously a really bad thing for Sarah to go through. Now, I wanted to kind of say this basically on behalf of Sarah, as well as her friend who unfortunately didn't get the help that they needed, as well as many other people, because suicide is a really, really big deal. It's a massive thing. People commit suicide. There's like thousands of people who commit suicide a day. It is a real thing. And even I personally have come close to doing it on many occasions. It's a really, really scary thing, and you seriously feel alone. So, I just want to basically put this at the end of the video for to educate people that suicide is a big thing. It happens all the time. So if you see or think someone is suffering from depression, I urge you to help them and support them. And I'm going to put the song Holding On at the end of this video. Not the whole thing, because it belongs to the band, so I'm only going to do it to until the first chorus ends. And I'm going to put in all these suicide hotlines for as many countries as I have found, for all the people who struggle, for the people who think there's a person struggling, and basically on behalf of Sarah's childhood friend who unfortunately didn't get the help they needed. I just want to do my part, because I definitely know how bad it is, and I wish someone was there for me in these times. So I urge you to help, and if you know someone who suffers from depression, seriously, honest to God, support them, because they seriously need it, because they really feel alone, and it's a terrible, very, very dark feeling. So that's it, and I'll end it there. Bye.
On blood-stained hands we can erase the pain from all our broken faith, suffocated by reality, a black veil of destiny. I don't know